So Beowulf, super old book. I like it. Norse or origin. Um, there have been some renditions that confuse exactly what this story is about. Renditions generally involving golden body paint in copious amounts. Just to clarify, that is completely wrong. So wrong. It's not the story. That's not. It's a lovely thing, but it's not right. The Beowulf the book starts off with this kingdom that is in trouble because this demon thing called Grendel keeps showing up at night and eating people. The people of the kingdom take issue with this and send out for help. The help is heard and accepted by Beowulf, who lives in another kingdom. And he's not necessarily, I mean, he doesn't do it out of the goodness of his soul. He doesn't do it because somebody asked for help. He does it because he's a prince who doesn't have his own stuff. And he needs his own stuff. So he decides that if he does a good enough job, he can show up, be a hero, and then he gets rewarded. So that's his brilliant plan. You have to understand. I mean, college wasn't necessarily an option, and like maybe he had a dream of being an engineer, but they were pretty thin supply at that point. So cut him some slack. Beowulf shows up and stays up the night, hoping that Grendel will show up and he can fight him. Grendel, obligingly, does show up. He attacks. I think he eats somebody. And then Beowulf meets him in Mortal Kombat. Beowulf has decided that Beowulf is too cool for school or weapons. And he decides that he's not going to use a sword or a weapon. He's going to use his brute strength. Granted, okay, Beowulf, we get it, you have it, but need you flaunt it? Like, one guy died. Like, it's just... But that's his plan, and so he does it. And so what he does is he ends up grasping Grendel's arm. And he holds on so tight and so hard that Grendel's arm comes off. Grendel then flees and ends up bleeding to death in his cave. I guess that's one way to get rid of him, if it works. Grendel's mother, however, does not think this was neighborly. And she takes issue with Beowulf and decides that he had no right to kill her serial killer child. And out she comes out of the creepy hole that is her home. And she comes up and she starts eating people. And Beowulf and all these people thought that they were done. And so they're in the meat hall and they're like, yeah, this is great. Grendel's gone. We get to sleep. Psych! So they all are in bed or whatever, and then his mother shows up and she starts eating people, and they're all like, what's going on? And Beowulf is like, this is ridiculous. I already did this. And so he actually takes a sword this time. Very exciting. And he chases after her. And he follows her all the way home. Now, the entrance to her home is not a nice little, it's not like a little hobbit hole with like a bell. Welcome, man. No, it's a hole that leads into the ground because she lives into a cave. And it is riddled with what the book verbatim describes as plotted gore. I'm going to be honest, this is my favorite part of the book. Like, the amount of gory detail is laughable in this book. It's like the same level as those martial arts films that only martial arts film watching people watch. We're thinking ninja assassin, like laundry, like washing machine full of blood. Like, this is ridiculous. That's 10 steps too far. Beowulf. So anyway, so he looks down, he's all like, ew, and then he jumps in. And he swims down to the bottom, and it's all filled with water, and I mean, it's a cave, you can assume that it's dark. But he gets down there and fights with Grendel's mother for hours. Apparently, he's some kind of ridiculous pro breath holder, because they're down there for hours, and he Finally succeeds in cutting off her head. He crawls out of the bloody hole, and yeah, he's a hero, and he is rewarded richly, but not with any women. There are no women. There is no relationship connected to Beowulf in this whole story. It's kind of nice and refreshing. So no, he didn't have any relationship. Oh, and he didn't have a relationship with Grendel or with Grendel's mother, because that is creepy. And that didn't happen. And let's keep this all straight. And we don't need to make storylines where there aren't storylines, okay? A good old hero who just comes and does his thing is enough. There's that spiel. So he leaves. He goes and makes a life for himself somewhere else. And he like has a kingdom, and he's wealthy, and he's like well renowned. Like he does a couple other quests, and basically the whole world is like, oof, Beowulf. Finally, in his old age, a dragon shows up on Beowulf's property. And Beowulf is like, I got this. And everyone's like, no, Beowulf, you're old, Beowulf. Stop fighting scary killer monsters, Beowulf. He's like, listen, this is my kingdom, and if I don't defend it, then I have no right to be the king of it. So off he goes, and actually succeeds in killing the dragon. Like, pretty impressive. But he sustains injuries from which he ends up dying. There's then a very long song about his entire life as a burial thing. And there you go. Beowulf.